Your soulmate is feeling your absence deeply, they're finally ready to reach out. My beloved child, if you are listening to these words right now, pause for a moment and take a deep breath, because sometimes the distance between two people becomes the very thing that reveals what their hearts were unable to understand before. There are moments when someone can be physically absent yet emotionally present in the deepest corners of the mind. There are memories that remain alive even when conversations stop. There are feelings that become stronger when silence removes every distraction. My beloved child, your soulmate may be feeling your absence more deeply than you realize. They may have tried to convince themselves that they were fine. They may have tried to move forward without looking back. They may have told themselves that enough time would make the memories disappear. But something inside them may now be changing. They may be recognizing that your presence meant more than they understood at the time. They may be realizing that the connection was not something they could simply replace. And now, after all the silence, they may finally be gathering the courage to reach out. My beloved child, perhaps you have been wondering why they have remained quiet for so long. You may have looked at your phone and wondered whether a message would appear. You may have remembered the conversations you once shared. You may have asked yourself whether they still think about you. You may have wondered whether they regret what happened between you. You may have even questioned whether you should completely let go. These questions can become exhausting when there are no answers. But sometimes clarity does not arrive through constant searching. Sometimes clarity arrives when you stop forcing it. My beloved child, there may be something happening within your soulmate that you cannot see. Their silence may be hiding an internal process. They may be thinking about what went wrong. They may be remembering what went right. They may be questioning their own decisions. They may be realizing that they underestimated the depth of their feelings. They may be recognizing that your absence has created a space in their life that no one else has been able to fill. My beloved child, when someone is always present, it can become easy to overlook the small things they bring into your life. A message can feel ordinary. A conversation can feel routine. A smile can feel familiar. Support can become expected. Kindness can become something taken for granted. But when that person becomes distant, those ordinary moments can suddenly become precious. Your soulmate may now be remembering those little moments. They may remember how you asked about their day. They may remember how you listened when they needed someone. They may remember your sense of humor. They may remember the way you encouraged them. They may remember the comfort they felt when they knew you were there. My beloved child, perhaps they are beginning to understand that what they miss is not simply your presence. They miss the emotional experience of being connected to you. They miss feeling understood. They miss having someone who knew their moods. They miss being able to talk about things without explaining every detail. They miss the familiarity. They miss the feeling that someone genuinely cared. My beloved child, this realization can be powerful. It can also be painful for someone who knows they may have contributed to the distance. Perhaps they are carrying regret. Perhaps they wish they had handled certain situations differently. Perhaps they remember words spoken during anger. Perhaps they remember moments when they should have communicated but chose silence. Perhaps they remember times when you needed reassurance and they failed to provide it. Maybe they are now realizing that their actions had consequences. My beloved child, regret can be one of the strongest forces that pushes a person toward honesty. When someone finally sees the impact of their choices, they may begin wanting to repair what was broken. They may begin thinking about reaching out. They may wonder what they would say. They may rehearse the conversation in their mind. They may type a message and delete it. They may open your contact and hesitate. They may wonder whether you would answer. They may fear that you no longer want them. My beloved child, perhaps their biggest fear is not that you will reject them, but that you have already moved on emotionally. They may wonder whether they still have a place in your heart. They may wonder whether another person has entered your life. They may wonder whether you still remember them with affection or only with pain. These questions may be keeping them awake. My beloved child, understand that you cannot know exactly what another person is thinking unless they tell you. So do not allow imagination to become your reality. It is healthy to remain open to possibilities, but it is also important to remain grounded. If your soulmate truly wants to reconnect, eventually they must communicate. Until then, live your life. Do not put your future on hold. My beloved child, perhaps this is the lesson your soulmate is learning too. They may be realizing that feelings alone are not enough. They may miss you, but missing you does not automatically repair the past. If they want another chance, they must eventually show courage. They must communicate. They must accept responsibility. They must understand your boundaries. They must be willing to rebuild trust slowly. And perhaps they are finally becoming ready for that responsibility. My beloved child, there may be a difference between the person who left and the person who is considering returning. Time changes people. Experience changes people. Loss changes people. Reflection changes people. Your soulmate may not be the same person they were when they walked away. They may have learned lessons that they could not have learned while everything was comfortable. Perhaps they now understand that emotional avoidance has consequences. Perhaps they now understand that pride can destroy something valuable. Perhaps they now understand that waiting for the other person to make the first move can create unnecessary distance. Perhaps they now understand that love requires vulnerability. My beloved child, vulnerability is not weakness. It is courage. To say, "I miss you," requires courage. To say, "I was wrong," requires courage. To say, "I still care," requires courage. To ask for another chance requires courage. Your soulmate may be preparing to find that courage. But remember, my beloved child, preparation is not the same as action. Let their actions eventually confirm their intentions. Do not create certainty where there is only possibility. My beloved child, if they reach out, the message may be simpler than you expect. It may not begin with a dramatic declaration. It may begin with a small question. How have you been? I was thinking about you. I hope you are doing okay. I remembered something today. Sometimes people use simple words because they are testing whether the door is still open. They may be nervous. They may not know how you will respond. They may want to approach carefully rather than overwhelming you. My beloved child, if this happens, you do not need to rush. You can breathe. You can think. You can respond when you feel ready. You do not owe an immediate emotional reaction. You are allowed to protect your heart. My beloved child, perhaps the reason they are finally ready to reach out is because they have realized that silence is becoming heavier than communication. They may have spent months telling themselves that staying quiet was easier. But eventually the unanswered questions become too uncomfortable. What if I had tried? What if I had apologized? What if I had been more honest? What if they were the person I was supposed to build with? These questions can become powerful. They can make a person reconsider decisions they once believed were final. My beloved child, maybe your soulmate has reached that point. They may be looking back and recognizing the moments when they felt most connected to you. They may be comparing those memories with their current life. They may realize that certain emotional experiences have not been repeated. They may have met new people, but something still feels different. They may have laughed with others, but they still remember your particular way of making them feel seen. They may have conversations with others, but they still remember the depth of conversations they shared with you. They may have moved physically forward, but emotionally they may still be carrying a part of the connection. My beloved child, this does not mean you should wait endlessly. It simply means that human emotions are complicated. People can move forward externally while still processing something internally. Your soulmate may be learning what they truly want. And you must allow them to make that decision themselves. My beloved child, perhaps you have been feeling their absence too. Maybe there are days when you miss them intensely. Maybe you remember them when you wake up. Maybe their name appears in your thoughts unexpectedly. Maybe you wonder whether they are thinking about you at the same moment. These experiences can feel powerful, but do not let them become a reason to stop living. You can honor the connection without becoming trapped by it. My beloved child, if your heart needs closure, give yourself permission to create closure even if they never provide it. Closure does not always come from another person's explanation. Sometimes closure comes from understanding that you did your best with what you knew at the time. Sometimes closure comes from accepting that another person's choices were outside your control. Sometimes closure comes from deciding that you will no longer punish yourself for what happened. My beloved child, your soulmate may also need their own form of closure. Perhaps they are realizing that avoiding the past did not make it disappear. Maybe they are finally willing to face what happened. Maybe they want to apologize. Maybe they want to explain. Maybe they want to hear your perspective. This could be why they are becoming more willing to reach out. My beloved child, if that conversation happens, let it be honest. Do not pretend everything was perfect. Do not erase your feelings to make the conversation easier. Speak with kindness, but speak truthfully. If you were hurt, you are allowed to say that. If you still care, you are allowed to say that too. You do not have to choose between honesty and compassion. Both can exist together. My beloved child, perhaps your soulmate has been afraid that you will be angry. Maybe they know they hurt you. Maybe they feel guilty. Maybe they believe that they do not deserve another chance. Sometimes guilt can prevent a person from approaching the very person they miss. They may think, what right do I have to contact them after everything I did? They may want to speak but fear that their presence will reopen your wounds. If they are experiencing this, they must eventually understand that accountability is not about avoiding the person forever. It is about being willing to face the consequences of your actions honestly. My beloved child, if they return with genuine accountability, you can decide how much access you want to give them. You are not obligated to restore everything immediately. You can take your time. You can listen. You can observe. You can decide. My beloved child, perhaps the greatest change in you is that you now understand your own worth more clearly. You may have once accepted less because you were afraid of losing the connection. Now you may recognize that love should not require self-abandonment. You may have learned to say no. You may have learned to create boundaries. You may have learned that your emotional needs matter. This growth will change how you respond if your soulmate comes back. You will no longer be satisfied with words alone. You will want evidence. You will want consistency. You will want respect. My beloved child, that is not being demanding. That is being wise. You have learned from experience. You do not need to repeat every painful lesson. If your soulmate is truly ready, they will respect your growth. They will not ask you to return to the person you were before. They will meet the person you are now. My beloved child, perhaps your soulmate is changing too. Maybe they have become more reflective. Maybe they are learning how to communicate. Maybe they are understanding their emotional patterns. Maybe they are recognizing what made them withdraw. Maybe they are realizing that vulnerability does not destroy strength. Perhaps they are finally becoming capable of having the conversation they avoided before. My beloved child, if that happens, let the conversation be about truth rather than fantasy. Do not focus only on how much you missed each other. Ask what has changed. Ask what they want. Ask what they are willing to do differently. Ask whether both of you can build something healthier. A reunion should not simply recreate the past. It should create a new chapter. My beloved child, if they tell you that they missed you every day, listen, but also remember that missing someone is not the same as knowing how to love them properly. A person can have strong feelings and still behave poorly. Emotional intensity does not automatically equal emotional maturity. That is why actions matter. My beloved child, perhaps their next move will be unexpected. Maybe they will reach out when you have finally stopped waiting. Maybe they will appear calm but speak honestly. Maybe they will apologize for something you thought they had forgotten. Maybe they will mention a memory you assumed meant nothing to them. Maybe they will admit that they have been thinking about you much more than they showed. Whatever happens, remain grounded. Do not allow surprise to make your decisions for you. My beloved child, you can be happy to hear from them and still take your time. You can miss them and still ask questions. You can love them and still require change. You can forgive them and still maintain boundaries. These things are not contradictions. They are signs of maturity. My beloved child, perhaps your soulmate is learning that too. They may understand that coming back is not about simply saying, "I miss you." It is about demonstrating that they are ready to participate differently. They may understand that if they hurt you before, they need to acknowledge it. If they disappeared before, they need to communicate better. If they avoided difficult conversations, they need to learn how to stay present when things become uncomfortable. My beloved child, relationships become stronger when two people learn how to handle difficult moments together rather than running from them. Perhaps this is what your soulmate is beginning to understand. My beloved child, there may also be something else they miss, the version of themselves they were around you. Perhaps you brought out their softer side. Perhaps you encouraged them. Perhaps you made them feel hopeful. Perhaps you gave them a sense of belonging. They may now realize that they lost not only a relationship but also a meaningful emotional space. This realization can create a powerful desire to reconnect. My beloved child, but remember that you are not responsible for recreating that emotional space. They must also learn to create emotional stability within themselves. You can be a partner, not a replacement for their own self-worth. Healthy love happens when two people bring themselves into the relationship rather than expecting one person to complete everything. My beloved child, perhaps the separation has taught you the same lesson. You may have realized that you cannot depend entirely on another person for happiness. You may have rediscovered your own interests. You may have started focusing on your goals. You may have become more independent. These are beautiful changes. Keep them. Do not abandon your growth if your soulmate returns. Let your relationship fit into your life, not replace your life. My beloved child, maybe your soulmate will be surprised by how much you have changed. They may remember the old version of you, the one who waited, chased, explained, or tried to fix everything. But they may now meet someone calmer. Someone who knows their worth. Someone who does not need constant reassurance. Someone who understands that love must be mutual. That transformation may make them realize that they cannot approach you in the same way they did before. My beloved child, if they reach out, allow them to meet the real you. Do not pretend to be unaffected if you are emotional. Do not pretend you no longer care if you still care. But do not pretend everything is fine simply because you missed them. Honesty is stronger than performance. My beloved child, perhaps you are afraid that if you do not respond perfectly, the opportunity will disappear. Release that fear. A genuine connection should not depend on one perfect sentence. If someone truly wants to communicate, they will allow space for real conversation. You do not have to create the perfect response. You simply have to be authentic and respectful. My beloved child, your soulmate may also be nervous. They may not know whether you will welcome them. They may be afraid of hearing that you have moved on. They may be afraid of facing the consequences of their past behavior. They may be afraid that they waited too long. But courage means moving forward despite fear. If they truly want another chance, they will eventually have to take that step. My beloved child, perhaps their heart has already taken that step internally. They may have admitted to themselves that they miss you. They may have admitted that the connection mattered. They may have admitted that they still care. The next step is allowing that internal communicate. You can respond. If they remain silent, you can continue. Either way, you gain clarity. My beloved child, perhaps this is the moment to release the question, will they come back, and replace it with, if they come back, what do I need? That question brings your power back to you. You need respect. You need honesty. You need consistency. You need emotional safety. You need communication. You need someone who is willing to grow. You need a relationship where you can be yourself without constantly fearing abandonment. These are reasonable needs. My beloved child, never feel guilty for having standards. The right relationship will not require you to destroy your standards just to keep someone. If someone truly loves you, they will want to understand what makes you feel safe. They will want to communicate. They will want to grow. My beloved child, perhaps your soulmate is now ready to understand that. Maybe they have finally realized that love cannot survive through avoidance. Maybe they have learned that silence can create wounds. Maybe they have learned that pride can cost precious opportunities. Maybe they have learned that people cannot be taken for granted. Maybe they have learned that when someone gives you genuine love, you should appreciate it while they are still there. My beloved child, these lessons can be painful, but they can also transform a person. If your soulmate has genuinely learned them, you may notice the difference when they communicate. They may speak more honestly. They may listen more carefully. They may acknowledge your feelings instead of dismissing them. They may take responsibility instead of making excuses. They may ask what you need instead of assuming. These are signs worth observing. My beloved child, remember that you do not need to decide everything during the first conversation. One conversation cannot reveal an entire person's transformation. Give yourself time. Watch what happens after the words. Consistency is the evidence. My beloved child, perhaps the next chapter will begin slowly. Maybe the two of you will simply start talking again. Maybe there will be awkwardness at first. Maybe old emotions will surface. That is normal. You do not need to rush into labels or promises. Let trust rebuild naturally. Let communication become comfortable again. Let both people demonstrate maturity. My beloved child, if your soulmate truly wants to reach out, allow them to approach you without making it unnecessarily complicated. But also remember that you have every right to protect yourself. If their intentions are unclear, ask questions. If their behavior becomes inconsistent, step back. If they disrespect your boundaries, do not ignore it because of history. The past can explain behavior, but it should not excuse repeated harm. My beloved child, your future deserves better than repeating old patterns. If the connection continues, let it be a healthier version of itself. Let both of you bring lessons from the past rather than wounds you refuse to address. My beloved child, perhaps your soulmate is thinking about all the things they never told you. Maybe there were feelings they kept hidden. Maybe they were afraid of how deeply they cared. Maybe they tried to act detached because they believed emotional distance would protect them. But eventually, hiding feelings can become more painful than expressing them. Perhaps they are reaching that point now. My beloved child, there is something beautiful about finally telling the truth after a long period of silence. Not because the past disappears, but because honesty creates a path forward. If your soulmate reaches that point, listen carefully. But also speak your own truth. You deserve to be heard too. My beloved child, maybe you once felt like you were the only one carrying the emotional weight of this connection. Maybe you wondered whether you imagined the depth. Perhaps you wondered whether they ever cared. Remember that you cannot know everything that happened inside another person's heart. But you can know how their behavior affected you. Honor that truth. You do not need to rewrite your experience simply because they later miss you. Both things can be true: they can miss you, and they may have hurt you. They can love you, and they may have handled things poorly. They can regret their choices, and you can still need time. My beloved child, this balanced understanding will protect your heart. My beloved child, perhaps your soulmate is finally ready to reach out because they are tired of pretending that the connection meant nothing. Maybe they have tried to convince themselves that they were better off without you, but their own emotions keep contradicting that story. Perhaps they are finally accepting that they cared deeply. Perhaps they are finally ready to say it. My beloved child, if they do, do not be afraid of your emotions. You may feel excited. You may feel nervous. You may feel angry. You may feel hopeful. You may feel confused. All of these emotions can exist together. Give yourself permission to process them. Do not judge yourself for feeling deeply. Your heart is human.